When I was 13, I was very, very sick, and I was in the hospital for several months. And I'll never forget, for example, writing a request or a letter to a station at KGA in Spokane. I lived in Wenatchee, and I wrote this letter up to KGA, and I told this guy, I am sick and I'm home, and I would love to hear some music, and if any of your listeners would like to write to me, that would be wonderful. And I got hundreds of letters out of that guy's single reading of my letter. I have to tell you something. I think the seeds of my interest in and love and value of radio were planted way back then.
Let's start at Washington State University. Your earliest memory of arriving?
I had transferred from Wenatchee Valley. I get up to Arts Hall, and here's an old friend of mine from Wenatchee. His name was John Lindsay. John said, Jerry, what are you doing down here? And I said, well, I transferred down here. And he said, have you ever been through the Department of Communications? So he took me in, he took me down, showed me the newsroom, showed me down the hallway, and out steps Robert Mott, the department chairman, and he said, Isenhart, come on in, let's talk. And he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I work in radio part-time as I go to college. He said, let me see those cards, because I told him that I was a math and physics major, and he shuffled them around a little bit, and he reached over here and he put one here, and pretty soon he said, handed him back, and he said, Isenhart, welcome to the Department of Communications. I actually was relieved because I had been in mathematics for 2 years, and I found the students in math and physics to be very boring. They didn't have any sense of humor. After I graduated from WSU through absolutely a wonderful gift of another WSU graduate. His name was Bob Concy, who was an announcer at KGMI in Bellingham. Bob had gone down to the Murrow Symposium that year, and I had picked him up at the airport and given him a ride into the campus. And I gave him my card and my phone number and said, Mr. Concy, if you need a ride back at the end of the weekend, call me and I'll take you back out to the airport. And a couple of weeks later, I got a call from Lee Facto, who was the president of that company. I went up to Bellingham, and they offered me this job as a field engineer going around the United States installing automation in broadcast stations. And that was the greatest job I ever had. I'm very, very proud of my Murrow background and my college training, and for sure I know that it served me well. One thing that's really obvious to me is that Washington State has historically produced some award-winning people. But the proof is in the pudding. I mean, look at the products and look at the graduates. WSU has an incredible history. Go Cougs!